a lot of retirees and soon-to-be retirees, they're angry. And you know what? I don't blame them. And what's got them angry is, they went to college or they went to trade school, they got a good job, they worked hard, they saved, they followed what was promised to them as the American dream. And now as they're getting close to retirement, as they're getting in their late 40s, they're getting into their 50s, you know what? They're finding out that the rules of the game have changed and they're pissed. And I don't blame them. Yeah, you look at Social Security, over half of all Americans are planning on Social Security funding over half of their expenses. And now we're a decade away, according to Janet Yellen, who is one of the lead trustees for the Social Security Trust Fund. She says we're less than 10 years away from the Social Security Trust Fund running out of money. Now that doesn't mean that Social Security benefits are going to go away. The current tax rates, what they're taking in, what Social Security is taking in, is sufficient to fund 70 to 80% of what's going out. But you know what? If you were planning on 100% of your Social Security, which the vast majority of Americans are, particularly folks that are 10 years away from retirement, to have that cut by 20 or 30% is just ludicrous. It's just not going to happen. Seniors and retirees and people close to retirement aren't going to stand for that. But it would be bad enough if that was the only thing. But that's not the only thing. As I said earlier, they worked hard. They did what they were supposed to do, saved money. Many folks bought homes. Yes, the homes have done well. They saved money for their child's college education, but you know what? The cost of college has gone up dramatically. And even though they did all the saving and did everything right, they still are facing a financial challenge. They're looking at things and it just doesn't add up. They don't have enough money in order to retire. And many folks are looking and saying, not only am I in a difficult situation, but in the last 10 years before retirement, when I'm supposed to be earning the most amount of money, and if I'm behind, I'm supposed to be able to catch up. In that very period of time, now they're facing potentially a recession here in the United States. They're facing technology taking away their job. They're facing their jobs being shipped overseas. Unfortunately here in the United States, ageism is a real thing. And if somebody's 50 years old and they lose their job, I'm a financial advisor. I have been for over 20 years. And I suggest to my clients they should have at least 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. Over about half of Americans say they could not fund a surprise, unexpected $1,000 medical bill, car repair bill, something like that. They're gonna have to put it on the credit card, which is gonna charge them 28, 30%, or they're gonna have to borrow money from friends and family. And you know what? They don't want to have to do that. So, many folks that were planning on this last 10 years being able to catch up, now they're looking and saying, I'm at risk of losing my job. And things are changing so quickly. It's not just quote unquote technology. It's not just quote unquote jobs being shipped overseas, but now they have to worry about AI. And oftentimes people will say, well, you can learn a new skill. It's not that easy to learn a new skill, particularly if you're in your 50s or you're in your early 60s. Learning that new skill after you've done something for 20, 30, 40 years can be really, really difficult. So the important thing here is, what do we do? Well, the first thing is that emergency fund that I was mentioning earlier. See, this is such a dire situation. You hear the siren in the background. I apologize for that. But what do we do? First thing is that emergency fund, right? As we get older, 3 to 6 months probably is not sufficient, because what you want to be able to do is to weather the storm and to be able to find the right next job that's right for you. And if you're 50 years old, if you're in your mid-50s or approaching 60, it's going to take some time. And one thing that we all should think about doing as we get older is saving more in that emergency fund. instead of 3 to 6 months, maybe it's 6 to 9 months, or maybe it's 9 to 12 months. I mean, it's not unusual for a 55-year-old to take a year to find another job. And unfortunately, the reality is that job's probably not going to pay as well as the job that they've been doing for 15, 20, 30 years. So that's just the reality. The other thing that I think is really key is we need to plan on reaching our financial goal 5 to 10 years early. We may not be able to choose when we retire. And in fact, there's multiple studies that show about half of all people don't get to work until the age that they wanted to work to before they were forced to retire. Either, they lost their job, like we've talked about ahead of time earlier, or they were working and trying to balance taking care of aging parents or adult children that might need some help, and they just weren't able to balance it all. So life just said, you know what, they had to take off of work earlier than what they were planning. And the other thing is, what else should we be doing in your current job? If your company offers opportunities to increase your skill set, if they have a continuing education budget, if they have different courses that you can take, certainly if they have courses on technology or AI, and you've got more than 3 years left in your career that you're still working, take them up on that. Let the company pay for you to reskill. And it's easier to reskill when you already have a job, and maybe you can apply some of those learnings into your current job, which is really the best of all worlds. It lets your company benefit from that skilling up, and it also lets you benefit if something changes. And, keep up with your network, keep up with people that you know in the industry. And the time to reach out and ask somebody for a favor that's in the industry, and can they introduce you to a hiring manager, for example, if you need to go that route. It's a lot easier to do that if you've kept up with people over years. And it doesn't mean you always have to go out to lunch or go out to coffee. One of the things you can do is just stay top of mind. When you see an article, when you see something of interest, pass it on to that person and say, hey, I was thinking about you. We met at a conference, we talked about this, and I saw this article. I just wanted to put that in front of you. And if you do that every 6 months, every year, you'll stay top of mind, so it won't seem so unusual if you need to call and say, hey, unfortunately, I found out some bad news and I'm looking for a job. Do you know of anything? Another reason that retirees are upset is there's talk again about raising the age at which we qualify for Social Security. And you know what? It's not just, yes, we're living longer, which is what the argument is. The argument is, but the reality is the world's more stressful now. So yes, we're living longer, but how long do we have our health, right? And what we're seeing is that stress is beating up on people. Here in the United States, the average healthy lifespan, the age at which we're likely going to lose our health and have a serious health issue, whether it's becoming diabetic or it's getting a cancer diagnosis, God forbid, or a stroke or a heart attack. Unfortunately, here in the US, it's about 13 months past the age of 65. And full retirement age now is 67. So many of us are going to lose our health before we actually get to full retirement age the way it is now. And it's the same thing in England, where they say it's fewer than 10% of retirees still have their health when they start getting the pension in England. So it's not just a US thing. It's the 7 most developed countries in the world, we also have some of the most stress. So it's thinking through that. And as we talked about earlier, ageism, unfortunately, is real. And yes, we might be really good at our job. And we might have been doing it for 25 years, but you know what? A 25-year-old might be willing to do a job not as good as us, but be willing to do our job for half of what we're getting paid. So we have to be aware of that and plan on it. So again, what should we do? Plan on being ready 5 to 10 years early. You know, invest your money wisely. It's not enough to just save, we have to invest. Spend our money wisely. Make sure we're spending money on things that bring us joy and not trying to keep up with the Joneses. Comparison is the thief of our joy. So, you know, focus on what brings us joy. Again, make the company pay for us to skill up and take care of our health. We talked about the healthy lifespan. I want your healthy lifespan to be as long, obviously, as long as possible. And we have to do what we have to do, not just to take care of ourselves in our jobs, but also to take care of our physical health and our mental health. And if you enjoy videos like this, I know you're going to enjoy this video up here. It's kind of part 2 to this, which is why retiring at 65 might be a big mistake. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.